The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Here's what I'm going to put out on the tweezer teat as we go live. It's pretty easy. Live now, Vol Twitter. Balls looked good. GBO for sure. So I'll share that with you, and that's out there. So join us now as we've got a complete breakdown of the weekend. Real football that ended with a pretty good LSU game last night. But in the SEC, it was blowouts. So we're going to talk about that. We'll be joined by former Vol Spencer Riley a little bit later in the program. Today's tough question: who's more important / productive / have an impact on this football team? Is it Brew McCoy or Dante Thornton? We'll have that discussion. Looking forward to that. Also, a little bit later in the program, we'll have your SEC power rankings, and these are the fun ones. Caleb basically took the bullet last week because he had to rank these teams with very little knowledge based off what they did last year and what he's projecting this year. And a lot of them sounded crazy, but it wasn't a crazy Caleb take. It was just that he did. I mean, the first rankings, like the AP, can be way out of whack. We'll have the stat of the day. Tennessee opens as a 5.5-point favorite versus NC State. That line has already moved to 7.5. Tomorrow, by the way, as we join you weekdays at 10 a.m., we will be joined by an NC State beat reporter that will give us a preview on the Wolf Pack. So do me a favor, hit like and subscribe now. We have a lot to get to. Oh, Caleb Calhoun football. How sweet was it finally?
Maybe sweet for you. You didn't lose a ton of money over the weekend. We'll address this on Thursday, but guys, that was my worst gambling weekend of my life. On my, I don't hide. On my best bets, I went 0 for 5. 0 for 5.
0 for 5 is not great.
What are the odds? What are the chances of that?
It's really as difficult to go 0 for 5 as it is to go 5-0. They've proven statistically. So even if you said, I'm going to try to lose, it's every bit as hard. So look at these guys. Dave looks tired and Caleb looks hung over. We worked a lot. Caleb doesn't look hung. I think Caleb looks fantastic. I do have the bags under the eyes. I
may have melted down after losing all my money last night because I thought that game was going to hit the over and it didn't even come close, but
Yeah. Credit Lincoln Riley a little bit for having a defense, maybe yet, or is that LSU inept on offense?
I think 2 new defensive coordinators and 2 new quarterbacks. I should have seen that coming. There was just sloppy play in the first half that was just going to I should have seen that coming in the first quarter.
That's a good point. Sam said, but you couldn't change your bet at that point. Sam said, don't worry, Caleb. I went 0 for 1,000. Well, if you took the balls, you did pretty well. Let's go ahead and yeah, you did good. And I hope you took the over. I always remind you that we are represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com. Other attorneys say they will go to trial. They won't. They'll settle for less for you. It's Tennessee's top trial attorney, Banks & Jones. Caleb, let's break into the report card. I have a feeling I know what some of these guys are going to get. By the way, it's on our YouTube page. If you want to vote on the poll question of the day, that's Tennessee's top performers other than Nico. I just had to take him out. because he's going to dominate. We know that. So I put Jordan Ross, Tyree West, Dylan Sampson, Dante Thornton. You'll hear their names again as they were 4 of the 5 Tennessee's top performers. Just how excited are you for it to be finally football season? That Florida State thing wasn't even a tease, but it was something in Dublin week 0. So we get off and running right now. We'll start with the report card, which you can read on offthehooksports.com. We highly recommend that you do that. And we start off with quarterbacks. And Caleb, I want to remind everybody, because I used to have, not for you, but for everybody, I used to have to remind people that when I would do quarterbacks, it's not just the starter. And especially in a game like this, where the starter dominates and wins the game, well, that would be an A+, right?
Yeah, Nico Iamaleava himself is an A+. If he's not, he just misses it because of the fact that, I mean, there was like a throw he missed at the end of the second half, or the end of the first half, excuse me. And my standards are high. To be an A+, I can't point to anything you did wrong in a game, but he would be very, very close.
Quote of the weekend, by the way, did you hear where, and we wrote about it on offthehooksports.com, so I know you did. He said, I fell asleep. I've got to do better on those last 2 drives. Oh my goodness, that's what you want. Tyler Bray on Saturday night would have been on jet skis, throwing beer bottles at anything he could find because, oh boy, you hammered Chattanooga. But Nico Iamaleava wants to get better. And that, to me, was a big standout quote in the press conference. And he didn't look overjoyed. Boo Carter did in an Instagram or TikTok video he posted where he's dancing. And did you see that?
Where Josh Heupel cut him off? Yeah.
Josh Heupel saw him from behind. Listen, Boo's still immature, but I've got no information that he's bad character. So I'm saying that's playful fun, not the smartest thing, but he's 18 years old. I'm cool with that. I could be, get off my yard. And
I actually think that shows a bit of respect for authority. He was probably like dancing to something that, you know, he wouldn't want to do around his coach. And he saw his coach come. He's like, okay, I don't want to see my coach. Like, I think that's actually showing a level of respect because he's saying, I don't want to do this around my coach. I do this around my friends and for fun.
Right. But you don't want to go live from the locker room in general.
Maybe that's fair.
Running backs get an A. I've got.
Well, I didn't point this out. We didn't finish the quarterback segment. Yes, they got an A- because Gaston Moore threw an interception and he overshot a clear touchdown pass. Sorry, it's just how it goes.
Guys, I may have been wrong about Gaston Moore. I'm the first to tell you when I'm wrong. I want to see more. Caleb and I are not going to draw any positive or negative strong conclusions off of this game. Okay, that's not going to happen. But I will agree, I may have been wrong about Gaston Moore based off my information. It would be my first because I told you Ethan Davis was going to play well. Jackson Ross was going to make a play. I picked a true freshman that's going to make a play, Caleb. It's pretty good. Running backs with an A.
I couldn't. I really, on terms of running, they did everything you're supposed to do. I couldn't criticize them at all. The unit as a whole had 288 yards. Dylan Sampson was the star, but Cam Selden, Deshaun Bishop both ran well. Khalifa Keith and Peyton Lewis also got in the game. The only reason it wasn't an A+ was because of the chop block by Dylan Sampson. I mean, again, I nitpick. You got to be perfect for me to give you an A+, and the chop block was not perfect.
I think that's extra nitpicking. I think he may have stumbled into the guy. But anyway, he did commit the penalty. Wide receivers get an A.
Yeah, wide receivers were amazing. The starters were an A+. Caleb Webb had a drop that I think pushed Nico out of his rhythm in the first half. Do you remember that? It was Nico's first incompletion. And because I was just about to text Dave. I was about to text him, Dave, Nico's approaching T. Martin's record. But then Caleb Webb dropped that pass.
Of consecutive passes, which, wow, that would have been amazing if he would have done that because he was throwing real balls. If you remember, was it against South Carolina? T. Martin got close to the record and he started throwing a lot of swing passes and screen passes so he could get most consecutive passes as a Vol, which I believe he still holds that record, right?
Aaron Rodgers broke it later. For Tennessee, he holds it, but Aaron Rodgers broke T. Martin's record when he was at Cal in 2004.
Oh, wait. What? No, I'm talking about the Tennessee record for most consecutive passes. It's completed.
He still has the Tennessee record. It was an NCAA record though.
Oh, I
Aaron
never knew
Rodgers
it was an
broke that.
NCAA record,
Oh
actually.
yeah, it was an NCAA record. Yeah, that was an all-time NCAA record. Aaron Rodgers broke it in 2004.
I did not know that. Lesson learned. Okay. And then up next, with the report card, we have wide receivers get an A, Caleb.
Yeah, we just talked about receivers. Caleb Webb dropping that pass.
I misspoke.
well.
Tight ends get an A+, Caleb.
Ethan Davis had a touchdown catch. Holden Stays got in the game with 2 catches. They were very good on run blocking. That stood out to me. The tight ends, actually, when they were held back for pass protection, they were very good in pass pro. They were much better than another unit we're about to talk about in pass pro. So I think the tight ends was an A+. This tight end unit is a rare weapon for Tennessee.
I told you. Did I not? That was in my prediction.
That was
other than the backup quarterback struggling a little bit, I nailed it last week. I'm not the one that typically pats myself on the back. Am I, Caleb?
Nope, you are not at all. You were very humble, Dave.
I was red hot. Hit that like button, by the way. Go ahead and subscribe. Turn your notifications on. Vote on the poll question. This is a day of celebration. I know it's just Chattanooga, and we're going to get to NC State, but enjoy today. And thank you for all those that tuned in to the Last Look post-game show brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. That's Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. All right, Caleb, let's continue forward with the report card. And we go offensive line C+.
Yeah, I'm very hard on the offensive line. I'm not giving them credit for blocking for 300 yards on the ground. This was Chattanooga. They should have. Andre Carrig was part of that chop block by Dylan Sampson. It doesn't happen if Carrig doesn't whiff on his assignment.
Good point.
Lance Hurd whiffed on a block that got Nico Eberle sacked. John Campbell picks up a holding penalty. Those are really bad plays. So offensive line gets a D- for pass pro. They get an A for run blocking. So between the two, I got to go C.
Which equals C+. They have the ability to play much better than that. I don't think there's really any question about it. We get to the defense, the show represented by Banks and Jones. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. People are saying Dylan Sampson was Tennessee's top player against the Mocs, not named Nico, followed by Dante Thornton, Jordan Ross, and Tyree West. I could actually make a strong argument for a couple of different guys, but we will get to that. The report card continues. Who do we have next?
Defensive line, A+. I mean, particularly when you include the edge rushers. I mean, they only had 1 sack and only 5 tackles for loss, but Dave, that was more about what Chattanooga was doing. That's a glorified stat anyway, sacks. Defensive line played incredible in this game.
Yep. Okay. And then people were bringing up, where was James Pierce? Where was James Pierce? Where was James Pierce? Did that bother you at all?
Guys, that's going to happen sometimes this year. Teams are going to run away from James Pierce and test the other side of the line. James Pierce did play. There will be moments like that. This is why defensive ends and edge rushers should, like when Jadeveon Clowney did his Heisman campaign in 2013. That's so stupid. Edge rushers are never going to be able to do a Heisman campaign because you can literally scheme them out of games.
Right. I think that's very fair. And James Pierce is going to be just fine. Let's not forget that he was considered one of the top or the top edge rusher by Pro Football Focus in the offseason, in which he just started 3 games the previous year. So don't worry about him. He is going to be fine. Caleb, who's up next?
Linebackers get A-. It would be. I thought Keenan Peele was fine. Arian Carter was very good. They were great against the run. The only bit of nitpicking is I thought Chattanooga was able to move the ball some using their slot receivers. So I feel like they showed a few small, minor issues in coverage. But again, that was in the second half, and they kind of had gone to sleep at that point.
All right. Who we got up next?
Secondary, same issue to nitpick. I give them a B+ because they were great in the first half, but those couple of drives where Chattanooga got into field goal range, got one field goal, that was by working the slot receivers. However, if the secondary is a B+ through the year, Tennessee's winning a natty. I mean, easily.
That's a great point. That may be the strongest grade, Caleb, on your entire report card when it speaks to Tennessee's future success, because I think the offensive line will have better days. But if the defensive backs are a B+, yes, I think if we say that at the end of the year, Tennessee's won a national championship. Would you disagree with that?
1000% agree. 1000% agree.
Sorry, next, no, that's fine. Next up is going to be place kicking gets an A+.
Guys, it's very rare for freshman kickers in their first game to hit 40-yard field goals. And Max Gilbert in college at Tennessee, you can just go back and look. And Max Gilbert hit a 42-yarder, hit both his kicks. But Josh Tuberville gets credit too. Every one of his kickoffs went for touchbacks. I mean, it was perfect. Place kicking was perfect.
He just doesn't need to try to hit the ball so darn hard. I think he got overstressed last year, and that's why some floated out of bounds. He'll have a strong leg, and I wouldn't be surprised if that ended up at some point being a battle. We may never hear about it between Tuberville and Gilbert. Now, I also wonder if Tuberville might be called in if they need a long one, a long field goal attempt. Squirrel White, A+.
No, not Squirrel White, the return game.
I'm sorry, return game, A+. I thought Squirrel White, he had the 20-yard punt return. Cam Selden had 35 yards on his kickoff return. And then Jordan Ross, who called him out? Who said he'd have a great game despite his underclassman status?
No, Dave, you did. I give you credit. I did say for a while, low key, that Jordan Ross could push James Pierce, but like, yeah, you nailed it. And that was it was against Chattanooga, but you can tell levels of athleticism, and that was incredible, Jordan Ross. Before we roll out our report cards, we do have to talk about the one negative that you don't have to worry about, which was punting was a D, because Jackson Ross had one punt and it went for 23 yards. You and I both know that's a fluke, Dave. Jackson Ross is the best punter in the SEC.
Yeah. Maybe he'll kick it with the other leg next time. It's still odd to me that a player can kick with either leg, because I couldn't. I'd really
love to kick it with somebody who can do that.
That's right. I don't know. Have you ever heard the joke about you got three knees?
No.
It's your right knee, your left knee, and your wee. All right. So
oh my God.
let's go to Tennessee's top players. It's on offthehooksports.com. And Tennessee's top players, well, I guess you have to start with what's his name?
Eberle.
Right?
Super obvious. Nico Eberle was the best player on the field, guys, and it's avant-garde to say anything different.
Yeah. I don't know what avant-garde means, but it's strong. So he was number 1. Jordan Ross was number 5. He got the block punt, and I'm telling you, he's going to be really, really good. Tyree West, kudos to him, because I do think they played extra attention to James Pierce. So Tyree West, somebody had to pick up the slack and make some plays, and Tyree West did that. Pretty awesome. Your thoughts on West's play?
Tyree West was the most high-profile recruit at the end of the 2021 season in Tennessee football's class. I have been waiting for him to emerge as a force on the line, and he may actually do that this year. I'm very, very high on him. We're forgetting about him, Dave. He has star potential, Tyree West.
Oh, he does. Yeah, you saw him get to the passer a couple of different times, but really that's not going to be his. I don't think that's going to be his primary goal. But at 6'3", I think he's about 280 pounds. They don't have a lot of guys that can move like him. Obviously, James Pierce is James Pierce, but he's a much smaller player. All right, so the top players that stand out continue with Dylan Sampson. Dylan Sampson, to me, and I know you still question his pass pro, and that's fair. And he did have that goofy little chop block. But to me, I think he's symbolic of how this offense is going to evolve a little bit. And he's going to be, not comparing him, but he's going to be kind of like a Marshall Faulk style, except I think he has the ability to run inside. I'm not taking that away from him. I just want to find ways, if I'm Josh Heupel, to get him the ball out in the flats. I want to get him the ball in screens and such. So Dylan Sampson was number 3.
That was one of your underrated predictions, Dave. You got two Tennessee tight ends did catch multiple passes. I meant to mention that. But the other one, you said he'd have 150 all-purpose yards. He had 12 carries for 20 for 124 yards. And lucky for you, he had 2 catches for 29 yards. So he went right over 150, right at 153, man. Nailed it.
Were all 4 of my predictions correct? I think.
No, maybe. Nico didn't hit 350.
Oh, but philosophically, you have to give me that, right?
No, I don't. I said he wouldn't. Because I actually said he wouldn't because they would pull him so early. And also, you were wrong because you said Tennessee would give up 13 or more points. So you underestimated the defense. Okay.
Dante Thornton, number 2. And we know who was number 1 with Nico.
Yeah, Thornton and Nico. I mean, is anybody shocked by those two? Like that pitch and catch was incredible. And by the way, the that catch by Thornton that went for a touchdown where he reached out, that was deadly accurate by Nico, even though it didn't look it. He had to throw it there to make sure that the defensive back could not get a hand on it whatsoever. And sometimes when you throw a pass where only your receiver can catch it, it may look like the receiver had to stretch out for it, but that's a lot of times on purpose so the defensive back can actually not make a play on it.
Exactly. I want to bring a former Vol in here to get his perspective. I remind you that the show's brought to you in part by Medicare Misty. Our next guest and me might be close to getting to Medicare age, so we can call Medicare Misty and get absolutely free advice for Medicare. And she's registered in over 40 states. So no matter where you're watching, she can take care of you. 30 seconds. And then me, Medicare Misty, and Spencer Riley will break down your Medicare plans available. No, we won't. We're going to talk Tennessee's offensive line coming up next.
19 years this year. Well, I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
There we go. We're not Medicare yet, but we're getting close, Spence.
You're closer than me, my friend.
This is true, and we're both way closer than Caleb. Wait, is Caleb closer to being able to legally drink at 21 than we are to Medicare? That
100%.
You mean not being able to legally drink?
Right, not being. So that would be 20. So Caleb, were you 36? How do you?
I think I lost you guys.
Okay. Well, we got Spencer, so who cares? Spencer, let me get your initial thoughts of the game on Saturday. What did you think? I know it's a lesser opponent, but just your impressions.
Well, I thought we did what we were supposed to. At the end of the day, they went out there, they handled the business, they executed well. Always there's some stuff that you're going to be better at day in and day out. But I'll be honest with you, Nico did exactly what he was supposed to do. If he didn't, I would have had concerns. He played like he was what he's touted to be, and he answered some questions for me. I'll just be honest with you. I wasn't sold on him until I get to see him multiple times. Right? I mean, at the end of the day, all this hype. You know what I mean? You're either going to be the guy or you're going to be a goat, and I think, and they're not the goat in a good way here. I thought he did exactly what he was supposed to do in the first half. I thought we executed well with the first group. Young guys got some playing times. You know what I mean? And they did some good things. I'm just being honest with you. So
let me ask you, Spencer, if I can, former Tennessee offensive lineman Spencer Riley, nice enough to join us on the program. Nico did get hit a little bit. To me, it just felt like football. I mean, they're occasionally going to get to the quarterback. But did you have problems at all with the way the offensive line played from either a pass protection standpoint, or you did have a penalty early? What were your thoughts, particularly since you played center?
Well, I mean, penalties in offensive line plays don't happen. If you're not holding, you're not doing your job, first and foremost. So when you're being physical and you're knocking people over, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Those things, those weird penalties are going to happen. A holding penalty is going to happen, right? With the way the rule is enforced now, if it's past the line of scrimmage, it's not as nearly as bad a penalty as it has been in the past. So, I mean, I don't worry about holding penalties anymore. Pass protection, you do worry about holding penalties more because they'll put you in 1st and 20, or from where from the original line of scrimmage there. So I mean, I thought they were fine. I mean, yeah, if you throw it a bunch, you're going to give up some pressure, but you just gotta when you're facing inferior talent, and you shouldn't give up hits on a quarterback. So, I mean, was it a concern? No, it's part of the game.
Caleb?
Spencer, going to the other side, in my report card that we were just talking about, I had the defensive line. I gave them an A+ grade. I thought they played as superb as you could possibly play, but can you did we lose Spencer?
Let me see.
Oh, there you are. But Spencer, how much can you read into the fact that the defensive line was so effective given the level of competition? Because I feel like that's where the biggest difference between these two teams was between an FBS and an FCS team is always going to be up front, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. It should be. You know what I mean? In offensive defensive line play, it should be exactly what you get right there. You know what I mean? They should be better. Tennessee's offensive line, defensive line should be better than Chattanooga's. And I thought we played that way. Again, I think I heard a stat: Tennessee played 15 defensive linemen in the first half. Does that sound about right? Did y'all hear that?
I didn't hear it, but wow, that's a lot.
And I may be wrong on that. You know what I mean? I heard that on one of the talk shows yesterday, and if they're playing 15 dudes in the first half, I mean, that's a lot of dudes. But those numbers will dwindle as the year goes along with how many they're going to play. They'll probably play anywhere from 8 to 10, I would think. You know what I mean? 15's a lot, especially if you got that much depth. You're going to wear on people for sure, and cause problems in offensive line play because you're just rolling fresh dudes out there every snap.
Yeah, and Spencer, I think I'm just curious, and I know you don't break down film like a coach would on a Tennessee game, but did you garner much at all from that left guard position where they've got Andre Keurig, who's supposed to be massively more stronger than he was last year when he didn't receive high grades, and then I think Sham Umarov is coming on at that left guard position. Did you notice anything in particular about that, or the interior, not the back of the defense, or the interior?
No, I mean, not really, because they were still better than the guys they were playing. You know what I mean? And you shouldn't. You know what I mean? I didn't really notice any glaring holes or anything at that point in time. You know, we should get a better feel for it this week versus NC State. I think that's who we play. You know what I mean? Over in Charlotte. So, I mean, we'll see. You know what I mean? I think that's going to be a revolving door until they feel comfortable with somebody in that position. And it's okay, you know what I mean? If you're playing 6 guys, you're playing your 6 best offensive linemen. So I mean, if you're playing 6 guys in the offensive line every day, okay, fine. I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Until you solidify yourself in that thing. So,
Spencer, I'm going to ask you something that may, as an offensive lineman who probably like to knock a few people around, and may go directly against your instincts. But my question is, there was a play where Nico got a little bit dinged up, and it seemed like he was kind of rolling out, and he was trying to fight and avoid getting tackled. Is that a concern to you at all, of having a quarterback that's willing to fight like that? Wouldn't you rather your quarterback, I know he's your quarterback, and I know you like toughness, but wouldn't you rather your quarterback just go down and give up the play to save himself for the sake
I
of the
mean,
game.
get rid of the football. Don't take an unnecessary hit if you don't have to. I mean, we talk about that all the time here, and don't take an unnecessary hit if you don't have to. If it's an opportunity to get a first down or come up short of the first down, get the first down, right? I mean, if you're just trying to scramble around to buy time and throw the ball down the field and you take a shot on that, that's your fault. So, I mean, get rid of the football, live to fight another day. We're explosive enough offensively. Second 10 is not a big concern.
Has your theory or philosophy changed on that at all? Because it seems like back when you and I were in our younger days, people would say, well, you like that quarterback because he inspires people. He drops his shoulder and runs over people. But nowadays, they run the ball more often and there's more opportunity to get hit. Has your philosophy evolved over time in that?
I mean, if I've got a running quarterback who's built to be able to take it and be able to run the football day in and day out, sure, that's different, right? Nico's not built to do that. I mean, he's a tall, skinny guy. You know what I mean? He's not gained enough weight yet. You know, he's not really. I mean, he's a tall guy, so he's never going to look super thick, but he looks still super thin to me.
He does. He does.
Spencer,
any other? Go ahead, Kevin.
I was just going to say, yeah, you guys had to deal with that transition yourself, right? Because Peyton Manning was the king of not getting hit, doing everything he could to not get hit. Then you go to T. Martin, and I'm guessing T. Martin, didn't they take the green shirt off him and let him get hit in practice that summer in '98?
Yeah, I mean, he's going to run around, do a little bit more things. We did some more option stuff with him, more sprint out stuff with him. I mean, he was going to create some more opportunities with his feet than Peyton was. You know what I mean? You go from a guy who runs 4.5 with T. Martin to a guy who runs a 5.6 and Peyton Manning. I don't know what he ran, but still, I like that number.
I don't even know if
He
it's that
wasn't very
fast.
He wasn't very fast.
Could you, at any point in your career, could you have outrun Peyton Manning?
Oh, 100%. No doubt.
I thought you were going to say no. And how much did you weigh when you played 290?
Oh, I was 300 pounds every day. So,
Were you ever in on one of the plays where he did one of his bootlegs where he never told anybody that he was faking?
We're in Arkansas.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, down there, it was a rainy, cold, nasty night it was in Little Rock. It wasn't in Fayetteville. It was in Little Rock.
Right.
It was like a 9:30 kickoff game. Eastern time was 8:30 out there, and it was freaking spitting snow, raining, sleeting. You name it, the weather we had, we got it that night. It was cold. And I was like, all right, go on over there and hang out on the end zone on your bootleg. And we was like, okay, cool, whatever. You know what I mean? We scored. Let's go. So let's get the sideline, try to get warm here.
Spencer's appearance is brought to you by, well, whom? His own insurance agent. That would be our good friend Don Self. You can go. Yeah, there you go, Don Self. Well, tell us about Don Self, Spencer Riley. This is a complete coincidence, but it turns out he's your insurance agent. Tell me about Don Self.
Don Self has been my insurance guy for the last 15 years. Moved all over the country, and he's been my guy. I can pick up the phone right now, call him today, and he'll say, what can I help you with, Mr. Riley? And he goes, let's talk a little Tennessee football. Huge Tennessee football guy. Used to go to lunch. When I was at Chattanooga, we used to go to lunch and have lunch periodically, me and another friend of his, and we just sit down and talk football. And just a great man, great person. He would take care of your family. My daughters called him, and being moved, and she transferred to Tuscaloosa to Alabama, and so he's been taking care of her, trying to get some renter's insurance and get all that stuff taken care of. But most importantly, Don Self is a great, honorable man who will tell you how it is.
Absolutely. Spencer, I know things didn't go the best on Friday. You're going to get them turned around. Best of luck, head coach at Jeff County, and we're big fans. So have a blessed rest of the week. Are you going to be hard on them this week?
We've already had practice at 6 a.m. this morning, so we're done for today. I'm actually getting ready to leave here and go up to Sevier County for a freshman game and enjoy the rest of the day with my family. My daughter's in town. I'm fixing to run by the house, tell her bye so they can get on the road, and then I can go be a football coach and go back home and be a husband and do whatever she tells me to do today. My wife, Beth. So it's what's going to happen.
Happy wife, happy life. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
It's Labor Day. I kind of completely forgot because I never
Well,
never consider that a holiday when you're in football, right?
that's what I tell people. I said I labor on Labor Day, and there's nothing. This holiday doesn't. It is what it is, right?
I know.
So
I worked
when
at
you text me last night about, hey, come on the show, I was thinking I was in school. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I got to be done by this time. I was right in the middle of. I was like, I got to go do this deal. I'm right in the middle of practice, finishing up practice right here. So.
Spencer, I did a radio show one time where two guys said they absolutely would not work on Labor Day. And I said that, well, I'll come in and do the show by myself. If you had two players that came to you and said, we're not going to practice on Labor Day, how much would they play on Friday?
Yeah. So what did I tell them? You got to do something different. I didn't know that was going to happen on the bubble or balloons or whatever.
How did you do
I don't even know
that?
how that worked. I have no idea. He says, maybe, I don't know. See? Yeah. Hey, there we go.
What is that, AI or something?
I guess. I don't know. That's my iPhone doing something like that. I don't know.
That's wild. For those on our audio platform, Spencer can just hold up two fingers and make balloons. Do it one more time. See what happens with
Let's see if two fingers work. There we go. Confetti right there. Let's go.
Yeah, confetti. What?
We've gotten in the ditch, boys. I'm just going to tell you.
My God. AI is going to be both a talk show host and a football coach before we die, Spencer. So we might just be bums together.
That's okay. I can handle that. I can go find me a place to hang out.
See you, buddy.
See you guys. Have a great week.
That was pretty funny. You try to do that. Your iPhone, right?
I'm not an iPhone guy. Nope, not an iPhone guy.
I'm doing the deuces, and it's not happening. So that was it's pretty interesting. I just see balloons come up. All right, new poll question that I've got up on the YouTube page right now, and it's taking off. Tennessee's offensive line is a blank. Concern, too many hits on Nico. Fine. Getting tuned up, 66%. Caleb, I want to get your thoughts on that because at some point, I think football's football, and guys are going to get hit, but it's also Chattanooga, so I find myself a little bit torn. I want your take in 2 minutes. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford & Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Can I get a little love from the message board if you don't mind, just for a second? It's all about me sometimes because I feel like I was pretty ahead of the curve, and Caleb was too. We both told you that Nico was going to be special. Don't worry. I had somebody at my book signing on Friday came up and said, is he really going to be that good? And I said, no doubt. I had zero doubt, Caleb. And we've said this the whole entire offseason. And just to go ahead and tell you, the Iowa game was not our predictor. We said it last year based off who I'd spoken to. The Iowa game was a predictor of his maturity because he didn't take deep shots. He didn't force it downfield. The Iowa game, in my opinion, that maturity showed up when he was asked after the game about what he did right and wrong. And he said, I fell asleep in the last two drives. And I know that that's coming straight from Josh Heupel. They want to close things out. But that's getting better from an absolutely nitpicky standpoint. I mean, they absolutely blow them out. And Unsung told me that y'all told us something we already knew ourselves. Come on, we were pretty ahead of the curve. So hit the like and subscribe button. Turn your notifications on because we'll have great stuff, including the Vol Report with Cooper May is brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning. City Heat and Air. Integrity matters. City Heating and Air Conditioning. So my question heading into the break before we get to today's tough question is I asked this. Did Nico get hit too much in the game on Saturday? That to me didn't strike me after the game, but then when you get on social media and stuff, that bothered a lot of people.
Yeah, and it was different. So the Iowa game, I actually thought he took too many hits because he was willing to run some. And this one, I thought, yeah, he did get hit too much. I did think he should have gotten rid of the ball. I think, look, this is very unpopular take, but Dave, I'm one of those where if you're getting bum rushed by an edge rusher and you can't get rid of the ball without a grounding, well, one, get rid of it and take the grounding penalty, or just do the Peyton Manning move and give yourself up and just take the sack. You know what I mean? But sometimes when there was a busted play, did you ever notice he slid? And he's like, I'll take the sack before you hit me. And I'm very much do that more than anything else. Don't do an Aaron Rodgers where you hold onto the ball trying to make a play and then you get hurt. And so I thought he got hit too much. It was partially his fault, partially his protection to a certain degree. It's funny you talk about his maturity. I almost 180'd on the maturity in this way. Yes, the Iowa game showed his maturity level. Through the first part of the UT Chattanooga game, Dave, you want to know what's funny is I actually thought that maturity we saw in Iowa was turning into a concern because it seemed like he was too often taking what the defense gave him and not taking the shot. Does that make sense?
It does, but the game was.
But that ended up not being true because when the shot was there, he took it.
No, agreed. All right. So this day in Tennessee sports history, please tell me it's a football game or a
It is. I'm saving it. But yes, because it's a good one.
You don't want to do that now? You want to do it now?
We'll do that. We'll do that next segment. It's a good one.
Okay. All right. Today's tough question is now. Our poll question will coincide with that on our YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do that. Hit that like button too. It really helps us out. And there's some like weird way that you can give us money. If you want to do that, that's fine. But really what I would like for you to do is support our sponsors. If you see any sponsor on my website, we don't take these. I've had people call me, so let us run ads on your site. No, anybody that's on our website or that we talk about on this show, vetted by me. I don't just take anybody's money. I really want them to be partners. And I just like Spencer Riley said previously, Don Self at State Farm, he is a great man. All of these people that we work with are great people. We absolutely love them. So the poll question to set it up, and Caleb, for some reason, my YouTube channel on my end won't pull it up. So can you do me a favor and read the original returns on the Nico question and then set up what will be today's tough question in addition to our poll question?
Well, I can't see the original returns because the new poll question is up.
If you scroll down, you can see it. It'll be in the chat.
Yeah, Dave, I feel like a boomer. I can't see it in the chat either.
Okay, a boomer. Okay, fine. Go ahead and set it up, and I'll find it at some point.
Wait, no. Okay, here we go. Okay, I found it. Okay, Tennessee's offensive line is fine getting tuned up 74%. Concern too many Nico hits 25%.
Okay. Do you have any argument with that? Any big disagreement?
I think as of right now, it's a bit of a concern. I'm just going to be honest. Now that may change, but it's hard for me to say it's not a concern right now. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Scale of 1 to 10 concern level, I would put it 3.
I'm going to go 6.
Okay. All right. Today's tough question will be the poll question as well. Let's go ahead and get to that. And it's brought to you by our good friends at Work Trucks. I'll tell you about them. Did I mention it's with an X?
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Today's tough question. Who will have the more productive season? Will it be Brew McCoy or Dante Thornton at wide receiver? Caleb, I love the way your brain thinks, so I'm just giving you that question. You could say catches, you could say yards, you could say blocking downfield theoretically. I'm going to give you first crack at it because I feel very strong about one. And yes, Teddy, Caleb is a worrywart, but so am I.
Dave, just to correct you, you don't love the way my brain thinks. You love the way I think. The brain doesn't think. The brain is the vessel for the human to think. I'm sorry. I'm just being a total douche. Sorry about that.
You should have thought, let's not slow us down.
Okay, so I just wanted to mess with you on that. I am still going Brew McCoy. I think Dante Thornton, I think there was a lot of testing going on in that game on Saturday. I think Brew McCoy was just getting back from injury. I think long-term, Brew McCoy will be the more productive receiver by the end of the year. I mean, I'm seeing All-American potential with Brew McCoy.
Okay. Well, then let me ask you this. Most receptions.
Most receptions?
This
I'm even more bullish on Brew McCoy for more receptions. He's easily going to have the most receptions.
Okay. I tend to agree with that. Most yards.
See, between Brew and Dante, it's Brew McCoy.
I disagree. I think Dante will get enough of an opportunity, and with his speed and with what he's asked to do, Dante will have more receiving yards at the end of the season, and he'll have more big plays. I think he's going to be kind of like a Jalen Hyatt impact player from the outside receiver, not the slot receiver, because of his speed. Now, Daniel says most productive Dante, most important Brew. So you're going with Brew, correct?
Correct. I'm going with Brew.
Okay, Caleb. So the answer to this question really doesn't involve either of these receivers. It's Chris Brazzell. And we saw a little bit of him. We saw a glimpse as they tried to connect with him. The question is, who does he more easily replace if somebody had to miss a game for whatever reason? I think he more easily replaces Brew. So I'm not predicting an injury, but I think that Dante is going to be the guy that's going to be out there more because he wants to learn the system. So while you would pull typically most people at the same time, there could be a situation in which Tennessee plays 4 games in a row and it's a blowout. Bruce says, ankle's a little sore. It's been a long year, but Dante could stay in there. So I'm going with Dante Thornton as being the most productive. Now, Daniel says most important. Did you see those guys block downfield? First of all, Brew's the best at it, and he inspired all others to do so. So, Daniel, you're right. Most important is Brew.
here's why Dante won't outproduce Brew, because when Brew dictates the coverage that we talk about and does the downfield blocking as the physical receiver, that cleared things for Thornton on the opposite side this game. It's going to clear things for Squirrel White most of the year. So you would have me if you were going to ask Squirrel White or Brew McCoy, because I actually might say Squirrel White will have more yards. I can't throughout the course of the season give you Dante Thornton, though, because what the way the flow of the game is dictated, it's going to result in the slot guy getting more of the touches in.
All right. Well, you broke up a little bit there, Caleb. I think you bring up Squirrel White, and I brought up Brazel. That just tells you right there that, I mean, Tennessee has 4 solid wide receivers, and I believe actually more, Nimrod in particular. And I feel like I'm forgetting something off the top of my head. I said leading into the season that Tennessee had 6 wide receivers that could play, and I was interested to see if that would be the situation. That I thought there was a chance that Josh Heupel might actually replace 3 wide receivers in between series. We'll get Caleb right back, but that didn't happen. Now, I want to remind everybody that we have our last look show, and that'll be the last look, a post-game show each and every game after, right when it hits zeros, because I was nice enough to be reminded on the message board. Some people don't know that. So if you hit the like and subscribe button plus that notification bell, then you will be taken care of when we go live after the game. And I think we had something like 10,000 views. So we appreciate you guys. Without you, this doesn't happen. So thank you. We are very blessed. Hit the like and subscribe button. So you were talking about Squirrel. It wouldn't completely surprise me. I don't think Squirrel is as physically gifted as Jalen Hyatt. I think they're both ultra fast, but Jalen Hyatt's a bigger target. It wouldn't stun me if Tennessee went back. I think this is what they showed Chattanooga to show NC State, Caleb. I have a theory I'm going to throw out there since we're talking about receivers, and you can call me crazy if you want to. I have a theory that they showed a lot of Dante, a lot of outside wide receiver play, and then they can bring in a Squirrel and do what they did in 2022 based off of what Jalen Hyatt was able to do. So I think this offense continues to evolve. And don't forget about Ethan Davis. So I asked you on the message board, who was your greatest surprise? And that'll be today's tough question as we set that up next. Also, a little bit later on the program, we'll have our SEC power rankings, the stat of the day, and Tennessee is a 5.5-point favorite versus NC State. Originally, that line already moved 2 points to 7.5. Let's see if we got Caleb back. We got Caleb back?
Yes, we're back. I'm sorry. I don't know
what
happened,
so
guys.
Squirrel, don't be sorry. Blame it on one of those tech guys that take credit for everything, even though they say build the iPhone. That's what they do. They don't actually build it themselves. All right, so Caleb, but the fact that we're bringing up that many receivers, this is exactly what Josh Heupel had been shooting for in 2024. He may fall, as far as a roster, he may fall a little short in the secondary. We don't know yet, okay? But this is the roster he wanted to build. And I think part of that is bringing in all those receivers. Now, he didn't bring 6 receivers in that were ready to play, which they have, just because somebody might get injured, and it's happened in the past. I think there's other motivation there. So I think you got maybe bumped off a little bit, but I was asking you, could you see a situation in which you show Chattanooga for NC State the outside receiver look, and then they go back to what they did in 2022, and Squirrel White has a huge monstrous game against NC State? As a matter of fact, I'll go out on a limb and predict Squirrel White, other than Nico, is the offensive MVP on Saturday against the Wolfpack.
Oh, yeah, I could absolutely see that. And, I mean, this is where I was from the start. Guys, I'm the one who said Squirrel White has a very good chance at winning the Biletnikoff Award this year. And it's no different than what you saw with Brew McCoy and Jalen Hyatt 2 years ago, right? Where, let me ask you this question, Dave, and this is going to be a crazy one. Jalen Hyatt won the Biletnikoff Award in 2022. You're going into 2022, knowing what you know now, and you are saying, you're Josh Heupel. You're running Tennessee. Someone tells you have to repeat what you did in 2022 with the same roster, but you got to get rid of Brew McCoy or Jalen Hyatt. Who are you getting rid of?
In 2022, I think that's a great. If you had to get rid of one, I think you would have gotten rid of Jalen Hyatt, but you wouldn't have had that. That sounds crazy to talk about the Biletnikoff Award winner. But again, I talked to multiple people in the NFL that said Brew is the one that's moving coverage around because they're concerned about his physical ability and the lack of ability to press him on the line. By the way, who's excited about seeing Brew McCoy going against is it Malachi Moore at Georgia, the cornerback? Oh wow. That may be the matchup of the year. Those two guys going at it. I may not even watch the ball. I may just watch that. But sorry,
that was a reason Tennessee lost to Georgia 2 years ago. I think Cedric Tillman came back, and for seniority, he was the number one receiver. Let's be honest. Brew McCoy could have beaten those defensive backs better than Cedric Tillman did. Let's call it what it is. And I mean, Brew McCoy was more important to the offense in 2022 than Jalen Hyatt was. Y'all can call me crazy on that, but Jalen Hyatt, I'm with you. Brew McCoy's play was what cleared the field for Jalen Hyatt. And here was the thing. In 2022, we saw Squirrel White come in and play a lot of mop-up duty, and he would have these bombs that he would catch from Joe Milton. And we thought, oh, maybe Joe Milton Squirrel White will be a thing in 2023. Maybe it'll work out. What we didn't realize was they were keeping Brew McCoy in the game because they weren't that deep at receiver that year, if you remember. So Brew McCoy was staying in the game and clearing the field for Squirrel White. Last year, Squirrel White was Tennessee's top receiver, but wasn't catching those bombs. Brew McCoy goes down in week 5 with a broken leg. You noticed the difference. And guys, I'm telling you, this is why it won't be Dante Thornton, because Dante Thornton will be splitting time with Chris Brazel and other wideouts. Brew McCoy is going to be the guy that when they need to, they're keeping him in the game. That means they're going to throw it to him every time. But Brew McCoy is the one receiver that changes coverage on this roster right now. I think Mike Matthews will be that, but he seems like the odd man out at the moment.
He might be. So here's our next poll question I'm putting on YouTube before we get to this day in Tennessee sports history. I'm most excited about this freshman, Jordan Ross, Boo Carter, Peyton Lewis. Now, I will include Mike Matthews if you want me to, or I can go other and comment. Because Matthews didn't really do anything, so you and I are both still high on him, but he didn't really do anything in his deep wide receiver course. So I'll leave it up to you. Do you want him on there, or you want other and comment?
I'd go other and comment. Other and comment.
Okay, and these are true freshmen, by the way. I'm most excited about this true freshman. Everybody's already starting to say, where's Nico? We got to get Nico on that. Chaz Nimrod, I think, will be good, but the comparison to him and Brew I see online, he's got to have more, I'm told, the physicality that he hasn't had that I believe is improved, but I don't know, like shooting or playing golf. I think some of that's innate and you just feel that way, Caleb, and you're good at that. I think some of wanting to be physical is innate.
Chaz Nimrod, I think, even as Maxo is Ramel Keaton, he's not Brew McCoy, guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. Okay, so that is the poll question before we get to this day in Tennessee sports history, and it is. I'm most excited about this true freshman, Jordan Ross, Boo Carter, Peyton Lewis, other, and please comment. I remind you that we are just privileged to be joined by the one, the only John Adams each and every Tuesday. Tuesday's a big show, by the way, tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll also have a Wolfpack beat reporter take an early look at NC State, put the Chattanooga game to bed as of today. But John will join us tomorrow, brought to you by Neubert Collision Center.
Fifth year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
All right, Caleb, set me up for this day in Tennessee sports history. What do you got?
If you were born on this day, you would be old enough to buy cigarettes today. because this was 18 years ago, and we were talking about receivers. That's why I wanted to do that first, because this was what we might call the breakout game for.
And old enough to go overseas and die, but not buy a beer.
Just absolutely ridiculous.
The personal issue I've always had. I didn't know where you stood on it, but go ahead.
No, I have an issue too. Oh, one more. Also not old enough to rent a car.
That one was weird because I started working with Jimmy Himes when I was 24, and you can't rent a car till you're 25.
So stupid.
And there was a little issue with that until I turned 25 later that year. We had one like travel issue where he had to like rent a car or something goofy. But anyway, so I can't remember how we got around it. This day in Tennessee sports history, 18 years ago.
Yeah, and I wanted
smoking cigarettes. That's when Peyton Manning started smoking cigarettes.
That is exactly when Peyton Manning started smoking cigarettes. No, okay, so I wanted to save it because I actually wanted to save this because we were doing the receiver conversation, and this was a receivers breakout game. Thanks to the campus cuddler himself, Jim Bob Cooter, according to rumors, Tennessee got a hold of all of Cal's signals, and there was some sign stealing that went on, and because of that, Tennessee absolutely obliterated Cal in their opener, 35-18. They actually jumped out to a 35-0 lead, thanks to two quick curl routes to Robert Meacham, where a freshman cornerback with a broken hand was guarding him, and Meacham turned him for 80-yard touchdown runs, and Tennessee ended up winning 35-18.
Okay, whoa. So how did I was at that game? I covered that game. I thought Tennessee was going to play incredibly well and crush Cal, but the signal stealing, this is the first I've heard of it.
Yeah, that was the rumor of the time. That was the rumor. You weren't you had to be I don't know if you remember Rivals and on the message boards, Dave, but according to all the rumors, I have to say this. I said that jokingly. I don't know for sure, but all the rumors at the time were that Jim Bob Cooter was able to figure out Cal's signals, just through tape study. And
I don't have a problem with that after the Connor Stallions thing that I saw, in which there's a community of people that share signals and share information on other teams. And I thought it was just big time conspiracy theory, but if you haven't seen that Sign Stealer, a documentary on Netflix, watch it. I firmly believe that South Carolina now knew Tennessee's signs in that game in 2022, the collapse of Columbia. But I think you have to adjust, and I have to think you realize, and then I think the Hendon Hooker just ended any opportunity. So I think what's interesting about that game when you look back is if they knew their signs, and I believe they did, if Hendon Hooker doesn't get hurt, you and I still think they might win that game.
I thought they had a chance to come back. Remember, guys, it was an 18-point game with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and Hendon Hooker at quarterback. Tennessee can score 18 points very fast. I totally agree. This one wasn't as much. I don't think there was like Connor Stallion stuff. I think Jim Bob Cooter was just really, really good at tape study and was able to figure things out based on that. And I mean, we're talking about a guy who is a very good offensive coordinator in football.
He is.
So, it's I and the reason I said receiver, that was Robert Meacham's breakout game. He went on to set the record for the most receiving yards in a season for Tennessee, and it started that day against Cal. But yeah, the South Carolina game was sign stealing. That seemed more like blatant. And I'm going to have a little more fun with Shane Beamer when we do our SEC Power Rankings. But, guys, if it wasn't for 1 month of football where he got a hold of signs, homeboys should have been fired already.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing that happened with Stan Heath when he won the SEC basketball tournament. It's the same thing. And
no, Dennis Felton. Not Stan Heath, Dennis Felton.
Dennis Felton, him too.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that you got stuck with another guy because of late success. And that's the absolute worst. The SEC power polls. Where does Tennessee rank? Happy Labor Day to you. And again, I'll remind you that we'll join you each and every moment after the game is over. Our live look last look post-game show brought to you by our friends at Campbell Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. So coming back, we will have SEC power rankings. Where do the Vols fall? We'll take a look at that line that's moving and what that says about NC State. We'll have some early thoughts on NC State as well, but continue to look back at the Chattanooga game, because what a fantastically fun game for the fans, and I'm glad that you got to enjoy that. Listen, the battered ball syndrome is over. I had somebody bring that up to me on Friday. Guys, I'm telling you, it's beyond that. They have a competent chancellor. They have a competent president. They have a competent AD, more than competent in all three of these situations. I'm just using it as a baseline. They have a more than competent coach. I mean, when you have those people in place, the wins will come. You don't have some goofball right now trying to take away the Lady Vols logo, causing a disruption, hiring people that are bad hires. You have a great hierarchy in place. So this battered ball syndrome that somebody else asked me about, I guess they thought it might be a 27-13 game. It was never going to be that. This is a new age. You should enjoy it. Hit like and subscribe. You've been too much. Hit the notification bell, please, especially with the special things that we have coming up, including the Vol Report with Cooper Mays and our last look post-game show brought to you by Campbell, Cunningham, Taylor, and Hahn. Where did the Vols stand in the power rankings? Stat of the day from Saturday's game? We'll see. Also, latest on the Vols and the line when they favor NC State, and we'll talk a little Cruton in 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
When the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Step up your game in this 24 Ford Maverick Hybrid, $25,515. 23 Ford Escape all-wheel drive, $30,995. 24 Ford F-250 Crew Cab 4x4 STX, $59,757. Local you trust, performance you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Join Hooker's Corner for increased recruiting coverage, more interaction with me and Caleb Calhoun, and also you can win great prizes. How about weekly prizes that include T-shirts and perhaps celebrate 98 book, The Untold Stories Behind Tennessee's 1998 National Championship game. And also, you can win a fantastic prize just by being a free member. Now, for all that, you've got to be a paid member of just $9.98 a month. But go ahead and sign up and be a free member. There's nothing to lose, because if you sign up, you're going to be a part, and you're subscribed to this station, you're going to be a part of something pretty darn awesome. And it is our Rick Terry's Great 8 Garmin Challenge. That's right, our Rick Terry's Great 8 Garmin Challenge, brought to you by our good friends at Rick Terry Jewelry Design. Check them out there for the Fire Opals. You got the QR code, but I'll remind you that you can win a Garmin worth over $1,000. So that's pretty awesome. All you have to do is be a free member and subscribe to this station. When we hit 8,000 subscribers, we will give away that Garmin, and we're at about 6,000 now, so it's going to happen soon. So sign up now. Caleb, the stat of the day before we get to SEC power rankings. What do you got for the stat of the day?
Well, so on Saturday, it was a Tennessee set. Nico Iamaleava set a record of 314 yards in the first half. He broke another record by a number 8 quarterback. One of the biggest waste of talents in the history of a quarterback in terms of NFL potential, and that would be Tyler Bray, who threw, to his credit, for 313 yards against Troy in 2012. Dave, I don't know if you remember that game. Tyler Bray finished with 530 yards. They needed, in his defense, they needed all 530 because Tennessee beat Troy 55-48 because Derek Dooley decided that earlier that year that the best hire to make in a year where he's coaching for his professional career was Sal Sinceri as his defensive coordinator.
Ouch. I will still tell you what I was told about Sal Sinceri. He doesn't communicate well with people, and he's not very bright. But other than that, this is somebody that coached with him. Other than those two factors, he is a pretty good coach, which was a backhanded compliment.
That was my favorite. Was when Georgia was Tennessee played Georgia that year and lost 51-44. There was a play. Georgia scores a touchdown. They're going for 2. Sal Sinceri wasn't prepared for them to go for 2, so he didn't run his defense out there. So they had 9 guys out there, and they had to burn a timeout to get 11 guys out there.
9. It's bad when you're off by 1 when you have 12 or 10. It's worse. Like, I've only seen it happen before that. I think you had more than 12 or less than 10. I've only seen that happen once in that LSU game. The UPS store in Hardin Valley, they bring you the stat of the day, here to help individuals and small businesses by offering a wide range of products and services locally owned and operated, conveniently located at 10629 Hardin Valley Road. The UPS store, Hardin Valley, click right below, owned by a former Vols wife, so she will take care of you. We absolutely love Denise Douglas, and we'll tell you more about her as she will be our new realtor of choice. We're looking forward to that, and I've known her for, goodness gracious, 20 years, and her husband, David Douglas, played for the Vols. Her nephew, Aaron Douglas, rest in peace, was one of the finest young men and one of the greatest athletes that I think has come out of this area. Just wasn't really seen. So let's get to SEC power rankings right now, Caleb. And which was more difficult for you? Was it last week with no games to play, or this week with basically everybody in the SEC playing patsies with the exception of Georgia and LSU?
This one was more difficult, significantly so, because remember, guys, I don't do my power rankings the way I do AP polls or projections. All 3 are different. There's projections, there's power rankings, and then there's rankings. Projections are what I think is going to happen. Polls are just, what is your record and who have you played? Simple as that, and I don't care about anything beyond that. Power rankings are based on what I've seen you do this year, who should be favored on a neutral field if the two face off.
Okay, so what I'm going to
much more difficult.
Right. What I'm going to do in a unique way is I've got a sounder for you're not a college football playoff contender. And I'm going to be pretty liberal throwing it out there. And then I've got another sounder that says, yes, this is a college football playoff contender. So I don't want to argue with Caleb about who should be 8 and 6 and so on and so on. So I'm going to look at this a little bit differently. But if you haven't had an opportunity to read it, I highly suggest you do so on offthehooksports.com. Caleb, who is number 16 now, which doesn't sound right.
So number 16, and people are going to say it should be Florida. I will get to Florida, but I actually have South Carolina at number 16 because while a bad loss is one thing, beating Old Dominion 23-19 is just what? That's horrible.
Are they a playoff contender?
You suck.
No.
Absolutely not. 15.
It's Florida now, and Florida lost 41-17 to Miami over the weekend. Guys, Tennessee should absolutely destroy Florida at home this year. Dave, we thought Billy Napier could get fired mid-season. I'm not sure he makes it out of September.
You suck, you jackass.
All right, obviously not a college football playoff contender, and they may be worse than they were last year. I go back to 2 years ago when they had the, oh man, his name suddenly escapes me. The kid Richardson.
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like we were talking about how you hold on to your job when probably you shouldn't. If they don't have Anthony Richardson, I'm not sure he didn't lose his job last year because he was all they had 2 years ago. They didn't make a bowl game that year.
Before we move on, yeah, what'd you think of Dan Mullen's retweet over the weekend? Did you see that?
I didn't. I think Dan Mullen's kind of a clown.
He retweeted Matt Berry pointing out the Florida coach that got fired went to 3 consecutive New Year's Six games in his first 3 years and was let go in his 4th season.
Yeah. Butch Jones used to do that. Butch Jones used to reach out to media when Tennessee would struggle, and it wasn't rubbing their nose in. It was like, y'all weren't happy when we were winning 9 getting well. I mean, no.
But Dan Mullen has a point, though, doesn't he?
No, Dan Mullen doesn't have a point because Dan Mullen is a sham of a coach that thought that tried to portray himself as a great offensive mind, leveraged it up to Florida, and didn't put in the work. So I don't like anything about Dan Mullen. Sorry, Dan, if you're listening. All right.
Wow, Dave with some like nuclear words. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a true competitor, he should have another job right now. He shouldn't still be in TV. But I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, sorry. So number 14. This was tough for me. But it was Texas A&M. Now, I don't want to hold things against Texas A&M too much for losing to Notre Dame, but they did lose by double digits, and they did lose at home. And Connor Weigman is just not a good quarterback.
I was taken aback by how bad Connor Weigman was. I really was. I thought he would perhaps take a step, do something, be better. Who's next? Obviously,
you suck. Yeah, jackass.
They're not college.
You don't think they're a playoff? Okay. All right. So number 13, not a college football playoff contender, but Mississippi State. Jeff Lebby had the Bulldogs looking really good in their 56-7 win over Eastern Kentucky. But they're still at number 13 in the SEC Power Rankings because it's Eastern Kentucky.
You suck, you jackass.
Okay, let's go back to. So you had a disagreement?
I think A&M might be a playoff caliber team if Weigman takes a step forward. I mean, he was awful on Saturday, though. Like, it's hard for me to believe in him after that. But sometimes you can get really, really, really good.
I think you've fallen in love with Elko.
I mean, look, he made some very bad mistakes that I would not expect from an Ivy League coach.
I was high on him too. I'm going to start to get off these bandwagons a little bit quicker because you and I were both on the Brian Kelly bandwagon that he would do stuff at LSU, and we've both proven to be wrong. So I'm going to jump off faster than you. I'm off the Elko bandwagon, and I was 4 days ago.
Yeah, when John comes on tomorrow, I'm going to have to include coaches in our Football IQ segment that I'm usually pretty high on.
John Adams.
It was not a good weekend for coaches I believe in.
No. All right, so who's next?
All right, so number 12, speaking of that, LSU is number 12. I don't hold it too much. I don't hold their loss as much against them as Texas A&M's loss. They did play USC at a neutral site. It was effectively a road game in Vegas. It's West Coast time. I'll give them a bit of a break on that. And they were actually in the game at the end.
Well, there were more LSU fans there than USC fans. I'm going to give. I'm I'm going to change directions again after I've seen something. I have facts now. Southern Cal brought in some transfers. They hate being called Southern Cal, which is why I call them Southern Cal. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
That rubs them the wrong way. So Southern Cal brought in some defensive transfers, changed their philosophy. They may surprise me this year. I thought 4 days ago Lincoln Riley was on his way to the NFL in some shape, form, or fashion, at least on the hot seat. So they may surprise me. I was impressed by the way they stood up against LSU in the trenches, particularly. What's next, Caleb?
Yeah, I will say the one knock I'll have is I felt that LSU took the game out of Garrett Nussmeier's hands too much. They should have let him throw it around a lot more.
Yep, I agree.
So number 11, Kentucky. Weird game. Kentucky beat Southern Miss 31-0. But the game was called in the third quarter, fourth quarter. It could have been 45-0. They look highly efficient. I'll say Kentucky looks like usually Kentucky wins those type of games. They've like 27-14. So
are they a college football playoff contender?
That's crazy.
No. All right. What else you got, Gil?
Number 10, we got to give them some love. Vandy, the Doors, beating Virginia Tech in Cashville. All right. I mean, I should have them higher, shouldn't I?
You could. Now, they're not a college football playoff contender. Saying so would be
that's crazy.
But good for them. Good for Clark Lee. We've made fun of him a lot, which we enjoy making fun of.
No, I've defended him. I made fun of Vanderbilt.
Yeah. But I've made fun of it. Well, he was pretty goofy at his first SEC Media Days where the goal is to win a national title. Come on, it's Vanderbilt. Knoxville's best Asian cuisine is right there at Asia Cafe before we see where the Vols are listed. And Asia Cafe has they are absolutely guarded secrets, family recipes, 5 locations to choose from, asiacafe.org. asiacafe.org. And don't forget, they have that fantastic, and I mean fantastic, Brazilian cocoa energy booster premix instant white coffee that I love. The golden label coffee bag with the Lim family on it. And it's been 3 generations since 1909. And the Lim Dynasty in Asia Cafe has those locations that you can check out right below. I prefer, by the way, the Callahan location because it's close to my house, and that's where we're going for a little bit of sushi today. All right, Caleb, who's next in your power rankings?
All right, so next I'm going I dropped 70 over the weekend. Maybe Bobby Petrino is going to save Sam Pittman's job because Arkansas beat Arkansas Pine Bluff 70-0. Got to show some love for them. But
yes, but saying they're a college football playoff contender would be...
That's crazy.
Okay, but good for Sam Pittman. You know, he's a guy I root for.
All right, number 8. As despicable of a human as he is, Hugh Freeze's offense may have taken off. Tigers beat Alabama A&M over the weekend 73-3. And if they kept the foot on the pedal, they'd have dropped 80.
College football playoff contender?
Yeah.
Hey now. I'll agree with that. Again, we're talking about situations where you can possibly lose 3 games and make it. To me, that looked like a 2 or 3 loss team at best, but we'll see. I mean, you could make the college football playoff. So who's up next?
All right, number 7. We're in the top half now. You can feel however you want about them, but Missouri looked pretty good against Murray State. They won 51-0. They dropped 28 in the first quarter, and Eli Drinkwitz, to his credit, if you watch that game, Dave, after dropping 28, he pulled a Phil Fulmer. I mean, he pulled his starters very early and tried to get the game out of and tried to get out of there with a win.
Yeah, but I'm going to stick with
You suck, you jackass.
But Dave, they would have been a college football playoff team last year.
I know.
If it was
I know.
And they have everybody back.
It's purely personal.
I mean, it's projected. I don't think they'll make it, but and for those who don't know, guys.
Hey now. They're a contender.
Let me tell you why it's personal for Dave on the message board. I'll tell you guys this. If you're a journalist, Missouri is the Big Ten of journalism schools in the SEC because they thumb their nose at every other journalist. As Dave and I are journalists, and they act like they are the smartest people in the history of the world at their journalism program. Is that why you don't like them, Dave? Because of how they thumb their nose at at all of the reporters?
Not at all. I didn't. It has nothing to do with it. I like I'm not particularly fond of Eli Drinkwitz. I think he's a goofball. And I didn't like Missouri being added to the conference because I thought it was a square peg and a round hole like the Big Ten has done with the West Coast teams. By the way, did you see the Big Ten promo that they ran where they took the camera and they kind of slid it over to the United States of America? So it's like they're looking at the Eastern Seaboard. So all the teams line up and it looks like they're maybe 15 miles apart. Did you see that?
They were doing that last year before they got the West Coast teams because they were, but now that they've done it with like USC and UCLA, it looks even more ridiculous.
It's so stupid. All right, go ahead. Who's next?
Number 6 is Oklahoma. They beat Temple 51-3 over the weekend. I mean, they beat an FBS team. That has to count for something. And their defense was very, very good. Still don't believe in Brent Venables, but you got to say they're a contender at this point.
That's crazy.
I'm going with my earlier prediction. Kudos to them for beating up on a bad opponent. I just don't think they have the head coach in place. So again, this is a preseason notion that I've long had that I could be proven wrong, and it's not because I dislike him like Drinkwitz, but I don't see it. I don't see it out of that Oklahoma team.
I mean, I'm mostly with you, but right now, based on what I've seen, I got to put them as a contender. But number 5 is we've got Tennessee in at number 5, beating Chattanooga 69-3. I mean, again, it wasn't just beating an FCS school. Does it count, Dave, if you beat a better FCS school, or are all FCS schools the same? For the SEC's level,
is North Dakota State still an FCS school? Why are we called FCS school when they have a championship now in FBS? But anyway,
well, if you're like a top 10 team in FCS play like Chattanooga, or you were 2-9 in FCS play last year, do we really make a difference between those, or do we just is it all the same?
I think there are some programs that are better. When we had Rusty Wright, the Mocs coach, on last week, I thought he gave us some great insight into that. That's a heck of a talent jump. That it's the group of 5 schools that have to worry about transfers. So I thought that was a real hint as to the fact that there's a big difference in the level of players. And I think it was evident on Saturday. So you have Tennessee where?
At 5. They're obviously a contender, but they are at 5. You tell me if you think. Now you can debate me with the 4 we're about to name if you think Tennessee should be below or ahead of them based on what they've done to this point. So
I'll do this. I'm also going to put it up on the YouTube page where you can vote. Tennessee is the blank best team in the SEC. 4th, 3rd, 2nd, 1st. And I
had them 5th, so I have them lower than everybody.
Right. Which, I mean, I made it that way because I'm right and you're wrong.
All right, well, let's go, John.
I'm joking. Go ahead. 4.
And by the way, everybody we're about to name would be college football playoff contenders. So number 4, Ole Miss.
Gosh, I think that I know the numbers that Jackson Dart put up, and I know that they scored a ton of points, but I also know that it's Furman, and Tennessee could have put up every bit those number of points and more. Both those teams probably could have scored 100 on Saturday. So if I had to pick, do I think Tennessee is better than Ole Miss? Yes. So we're going to change gears a little bit in terms of college football playoff contenders as to, do I think Tennessee is better than them? Caleb does not, based off the power rankings to this point, but I would have them above Ole Miss just purely based off what happened last week.
Hey now.
I don't know how you could put them above Ole Miss based on what purely happened last week. Like, they both play top 10 FCS schools, and Ole Miss won 76-0. Tennessee won 69-3. I feel like.
Well, I'm always going to factor in eye test, and I think Nico's better than Jackson Dart. I think Tennessee's defense is better than, and I haven't seen the back end tested again, but Ole Miss hasn't been tested. I think Tennessee's defense will be significantly better, or already is, than Ole Miss. So that, I mean, it's based off last weekend and my eye test. Does that give me an out?
Maybe I'd give you an out if you were going to go on projections, but I can't do anything based on what I saw last weekend. I got to put Ole Miss ahead of them for right now.
Okay, but you're talking to the guy that told you that Michigan was going to win a national title in September, right? I got a pretty good
You do, and you are a slave to your projections, but you have to ignore your projections with
that. Is not. Whoa! I've just talked about how many things I'm changing. I'm not a slave to my projections. I hate it when people do that.
No, what I mean by that is you saw what you saw with Michigan. You were dead right on. You got a great eye, but you couldn't have put Michigan number one in any power rankings in that moment because they haven't beaten anybody.
That's fair. Let's get to the top three, right?
Yes.
And that's brought to you by Work Trucks, all about trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle now. Time is money. Contractors, the perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. The process is also quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for Work Trucks. Cargo vans, utility body trucks with an app, how to work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Trucks supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road. No dealership run around. You'll be on the road tomorrow. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks with an X. That's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks with an X. The trucks that your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville and downtown Birmingham. For the entire inventory, you can go online to worktruckswithanx.llc.com. Worktruckswithanx.llc.com. Why risk chancing your future and business on the wrong piece of equipment that burns your time? Work Trucks will also work to make sure that you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They'll find it, outfit it, make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. WorkTrucksLLC.com. Caleb, who's up next?
All right, number 3, Alabama. They again, I think Tennessee will still beat Alabama, but Jalen Milroe did look like he could run Caleb DeBoer's offense. As of right now, it was against Western Kentucky, but I mean, we can safely say Western Kentucky is better than Chattanooga. So them winning 63-0, I got to put Alabama ahead of Tennessee right now.
Hey now. I will give you that one purely based off Saturday. I'm not projecting at all. I will tell you that I think Tennessee will beat Alabama based off my eye test. But right now, I'm going to play the game a little bit more by your rules. And I'm going to say that right now, based off Saturday, that is a more significant opponent. So unlike Ole Miss, where to me, it was just a blowout beyond belief in both games. It doesn't really matter. This one is Western Kentucky. So I'll roll with you there. They should be above Tennessee.
Yeah. Number 2. Now, this is where my projection I had to throw out because they will not stay number 2. And I would, if you ask number 2, but if you ask me between Tennessee and this team, I would take Tennessee every day and twice on Sunday. But as of right now, I got to put Texas at number 2. And because they did beat Colorado State, they shut out Colorado State 52-0. They pulled Quinn Ewers early. We saw a taste of Arch Manning. Guys, I'm going to tell you, Arch Manning's better than Quinn Ewers. He should be starting over Quinn Ewers right now.
I kind of think the same thing. I was going to make some phone calls about that. Could there be perhaps a situation there in which here's my theory on what's going on there. The Mannings wanted Arch to sit. And then Texas realized that they were national championship contenders with Quinn. So to make a change could chuck that. Coaches are by nature conservative. So I think to make that change would be very aggressive. And I don't think they're going to do it. I got a feeling I know who's number 1.
Yeah, number 1 is not even a debate. Guys, come on. Do I have to say it? It's Georgia. They didn't just beat Clemson over the weekend. And I'm going to do my recap tomorrow of the weekend. I'm saving it because there's one more game tonight, Florida State and Georgia Tech. Not Florida State and Georgia Tech, Florida State and Boston College. But, guys, Georgia is number 1. And you know what's funny is they looked ugly in the first half. It was a 6-0 game in the first half, and then they just took over in the second half. And you just saw where Georgia's so deep, Dave. They just overwhelm people.
Deep and really physical. I heard somebody say over the weekend, compared to a heavyweight fight where people are leaning on each other and then come the haymakers. Well, one was a heavyweight. One team was a heavyweight. The Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOKED. That's HOOKED for 10% off. So out of that group, who is the most volatile, up or down?
Oh, I think Ole Miss is, because just we could. I still have Ole Miss a top 5 caliber team, but Dave, I wouldn't be shocked if they finished like 14th in the SEC by the end of the year. Any more than I'd be shocked if they finished second.
So how about the bottom? Who could move up the most?
Oh, the team at the bottom that can move up the most is LSU. I think LSU. They're number 12. Texas A&M is 14. LSU is 12. And Mississippi State's 13. Any of those 3 teams could move up. LSU and Texas A&M. Sorry.
Do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate that. Turn your notifications on. Bank on it. Coming up next, brought to you by Commercial Bank, as we'll take a look at Tennessee's early point spread. It's already moved significantly. And then we got something else coming up, Caleb, don't we? Huh?
Yeah, I wanted to pose the question and I wanted to talk a little more eye test, which is I wanted to ask the question, as great as Nico Iamaleava looked over the weekend, should we be concerned that it's not unique in the SEC this year because of the quarterbacks?
Quarterbacks are great. Offenses some have caught up. Some have already been there. Give us 2 minutes off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
When the lights turn on and the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford & Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All righty, want to welcome brand new sponsor into the program, and that is our good friends at Commercial Bank. And I've been working with Commercial Bank for over 20 years, and so excited to have them on board. They will bring you Bank on It each and every weekday. We start Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. in case you didn't know that yet. So let's go ahead and get to it. Bank on It, brought to you by our good friends at Commercial Bank. Commercial Bank, member FDIC, life made better. Commercial Bank creates positive experiences for every customer every day with better solutions, better technology. Commercial banks for personal and business. Commercial Bank, life made easier. Caleb Calhoun, bank on it. Tennessee should not be concerned about other offenses putting up big numbers because their offenses that other places are using are not as innovative as Tennessee. And a couple of those schools, which we can discuss as we go, are not as talented. So bank on it. Tennessee shouldn't be concerned about the fact that a lot of schools put up a lot of points like they've been known to do for the past 3 years.
I actually agree with you on that. And I will willingly bank on that. I pose this question, guys, because we were all talking about how great Nico Iamaleava played over the weekend. And he did. Played amazing. And I'm so high on him still. And then you go down the SEC and you're thinking, wow, a lot of other quarterbacks were as or more productive than he was from the SEC. All of them played patsies. I get it. But, when you're that high on Nico, you start to think, you know how the world thinks, Dave. You start to think, well, why should Alabama be any less high on their quarterback or this school be any less high on their quarterback than I should be on Nico, given the fact that Nico didn't do anything more special than the others. But I'm here to tell you, and this is where I'm going to this is where I will defer to Dave because he's actually better at this than I am with his eye test. But I am here to tell you that I'm with Dave on there is an eye test factor with these things, and the throws that Nico Iamaleava is able to make, just very, very few quarterbacks can make in college football.
I agree, and his presence. I think we all want to talk arm a little bit because Joe Milton had the big arm, but he didn't have the touch arm. So I think we overlook his presence when we just talk about his physical ability. Now, I didn't see him take a lot of hard hits, despite the fact that pass protection struggled a bit for a little bit. But Caleb, I think his presence is going to be as good or better than anybody else. Maybe Jalen Milroe because he's played more, but we've seen Jalen Milroe mess the bed before. I mean, you remember Jalen Milroe's first game, he had 4 turnovers. This is the first regular season game for Nico, and he had like 1,400 touchdowns. So I don't think right now that there's even close to a quarterback I would take over Nico. We can argue Jackson Dart if you want to, but again, we're talking about 2 different levels of football, and the teams that Ole Miss and Tennessee played in UTC and Furman. So Caleb, there's not a guy that I would take. There's not another quarterback I would take other than Nico. Now, if you want to have the discussion about Shedeur Sanders, I do think there's a debate there. But Shedeur Sanders is 2 years older. So, but I don't see another quarterback, Carson Beck included, that I would take over Nico. So that's another differentiating factor.
Yeah, Carson Beck, that's my thoughts too. There's 3 major competitors for me. Now, we have to send some shout-outs because, yeah, Taylon Green was technically more productive than Nico. I wouldn't take Taylon Green over Nico. Okay. The 3 that you asked questions about would be Carson Beck. I still would take Nico. You would go you mentioned Jackson Dart. I still would take Nico. The other one, and people are going to disagree after last night, but I'm sorry, I watched him play and it wasn't his fault. But Garrett Nussmeier could have a case too. I think he's a very good quarterback. I think LSU did not use him the way they should have used him yesterday. I think he was a victim of some very bad play calling and very bad coaching mistakes.
I agree with that. And I was watching that game last night, and you know what it felt like to me is that they didn't trust him.
Yes.
And,
I totally agree.
And I don't know why, because to me, you go after SC's secondary more so than trying to run the football at them. And Nussmeier had a great touch on the touchdown pass that he dropped in the left side of the end zone. The guy got one foot down. And no, I agree. I thought, Garrett Nussmeier might be the most underrated player in the SEC after what I saw on the weekend compared to what I had coming in.
No, I totally agree. Garrett Nussmeier was very good. And honestly, I thought it was pretty gross of Brian Kelly last night to say USC's quarterback outplayed our quarterback. No, you just didn't do a good job with your quarterback, quite honestly. Mm-hmm. And it's that simple. So that would be, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be in a different offense than Nico. Obviously, I think overall, I still am taking Nico, but I actually thought it's weird. In a loss, I thought Garrett Nussmeier showed that he could be a very, very good quarterback.
Okay. I want to ask you this question. In what is an offensive league this year and the way football is going in general, let me ask you, what's more important for the Vols in continuing to have distance between other teams offensively? Is it Josh Heupel or is it Nico? 30 seconds, Caleb Calhoun.
And the game begins, you need a team you can rely on. Ray Varner Ford and Clinton's strong lineup of vehicles is crafted with the same dedication and hard work that drives our community. Experience quality and value in this pre-owned 2023 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4 $67,950, 2017 Ford F-150 Raptor SVT $41,950, 2023 Ford Escape ST Line $28,940. Local you trust, pre-owned vehicles you can afford. Ray Varner Ford, built for the game.
So, Caleb, if the offenses are catching up to Tennessee, which is going to be tough to do because in 2022, they had one of the top, if not the top, I can't remember, offenses in the nation. Did they lead the nation in scoring in 2022?
Yeah, they had 46 points per game in 2022.
Okay, so let's say some of these teams have closed the gap because they figured some things out and they probably studied Josh Heupel's offense. What's the determining factor in why none of these offenses that we talked about, with the exception of Lane Kiffin, because I think they're pretty much on equal scale, as far as calling offense, before I get lit up on the message board, they're totally different people. But in your mind, what's the bigger determining factor? Is it Josh Heupel or Nico that will keep the Vols atop the offensive standings this season?
Ooh. I think you have to go Nico because of what you saw the offense could be without the right quarterback last year. And also because, look, you brought up Lane Kiffin. I bring up Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, Alex Golesh at South Florida. I mean, the Heupel offense is starting to spread. So the question will become twofold. Can Heupel stay ahead of the curve? I don't think that matters as much, Dave. Let's think long-term on this. When Tom Osborne in Nebraska were dropping 16, 70 points running the triple option, a lot of other schools tried to emulate that, right? I mean, sure. Kansas State with Bill Snyder. None of them were Nebraska because Nebraska was the one who built the reputation. So they still got all the best players who wanted to run that. Josh Heupel's always going to get the best players for this type of system because he was the first and he was ahead of the curve. He and Lincoln Riley together will get the best players. There's nothing any other coach at another school that trying to build a program can do to emulate that. That's why he's always going to get the Nico. So right now, it's weird because I would say Nico, but Nico's there because of Josh Heupel in the system.
Yeah. It's probably always going to be the head coach, right?
Yes, because the head coach. Yes, it will always be the head coach. I mean, you notice like when Tom Osborne retired, Nebraska couldn't maintain it with Frank Solich. And it's going to be the head coach. And so I think that I don't think Josh Heupel's going to have to. People talk about staying ahead of the curve. Dave, I thought about this. I think Josh Heupel's built the reputation. I don't think he's ever going to really have to tweak his offense to stay ahead of the curve. I think now he's built the reputation where he's just going to get the players to run it, and nobody else will get those players.
Do you remember? Maybe you can look this up because I think I'm copping out on you, buddy. I'm going to say it's a combination of both, but I'm going to throw a third in there. Can you look up in 2022 how many interceptions Hendon Hooker threw? I think it was like 3.
It was
2, something insane. Yeah. I just don't think they turn the ball over, and I don't think Tennessee's going to turn the ball over. So That to me is another determining factor. Is that a Heupel or is that a Nico? I think that's more a Heupel. So I guess I would have to say more Heupel, because the way that you can get yourself beat in this day and age of high-flying offenses is to turn the ball over, because the other team's going to burn you, Caleb. And was it just 2 interceptions? Did you double check that? Or you?
Yeah, it was just 2 interceptions. And what you're saying, I 1,000% agree with. Joe Milton had only 5 last year. We're talking about him having a struggling in the offense. He had 20 touchdowns and 5 picks. Most quarterbacks would take that stat line in a year.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, I think that part of that is the whole way this offense is set up. It's designed to get receivers bare open down the field. You're either going to throw a touchdown pass or you're going to overshoot your target. There's nobody in the vicinity to throw an interception to. You know?
Now, our good friends at Quality Tire Pro want to remind you that there's nowhere else to go to when it comes to the best automotive service in Chattanooga. The Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by a nationwide warranty. Cherokee Boulevard, or online at qualitytirepros.com. qualitytirepros.com. Tell Bo that Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said hello. Dave Hooker and Off the Hook Sports said hello at Quality Tire Pros. Support our sponsors. Again, that's why we're here, and we greatly appreciate that. Now, I posted, because I like to do it, another poll question that said I would take the Vols as a blank favorite. They are 7.5. So everybody would take them against NC State. They are a 7.5 point favorite, move from 5.5 now to 10.5, 12.5, 14.5. Let me ask you, would you take Tennessee if last week you said they'd be a 16-point favorite? I said 8 or 9. Okay. Would you take them as a 14.5 point favorite? Gun to your head, you got to choose.
Yeah, I'm taking an alternate spread on FanDuel this week, and I want to try to get rich off it because the line is 7.5, and I bet that payout's going to be epic when I take 14.5.
How does that work? How do you? So it's like you can adjust the line, and then
whatever the line is, you can adjust alternate lines, and if the more adjusted it is, the better the payout is. Put it that way. Yeah. So if you take Tennessee, the line is Tennessee minus 7.5. If you take Tennessee minus 6.5, you'll get less money than you would if you took a straight line. But if you took the minus 8.5, 9.5, 10.5, you're going to start making some money.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to gamble, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you that Tennessee's going to hammer NC State. I'm saying it on Monday. That's Dave's eye test of seeing both teams play. It was very convenient to be able to see them on Thursday because sometimes you get so caught up in covering games. By the way, we turned out a ton of content on Saturday, so be sure and check it out. A lot more that we're going to talk about headed into the week. Very touching story. If you haven't been to offthehooksports.com about how Brew McCoy lost his grandfather in the offseason, the first steps he took out of his boot were actually when his grandfather, who passed away in December, was on his deathbed. But he was able to get up and give Brew a hug. So I thought that was really inspiring stuff. And we'll have more on that probably tomorrow, as well as you need to tune in tomorrow because we'll have John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. We'll also have a NC State Wolfpack reporter that we look forward to visiting with and see what he thinks of NC State's chances. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave.
Wait, Dave, we got to talk. We got to talk more about the line. I mean,
okay. The fact that it's 7.5, I think is an easy one. What's there to talk about?
Well, no, I mean, I was trying to talk about why they set it at this.
Why they set it at 5.5?
Because here, so let's get back to this. Let's start this over. Tennessee is a 7.5 point favorite against NC State. They started as a 5.5 point favorite, which I thought was a disturbingly low line. And from Sunday to Monday, they moved it to 7.5. Why'd they move it that easily? Why'd they move it that? The question is, why did they have it so low? And why did they move it that quickly? Do you guys think that was Tennessee betting? Or do you guys think that was do you think that was Tennessee fans betting, or do you think that they realized they screwed up with this line?
I think the line was low, but it's the same thing. It's like when they mess up your order at a restaurant and you tell them to bring it back. So then I think Tennessee fans jumped all over that number and it quickly moved to 7.5. I'm not surprised at all it moved to 7.5. Tennessee is one of the biggest gambling schools out there. My question for you is, does it move to double digits by the end of the week? That would be a massive move, 4.5 overall points.
Going from 5.5 to 10 would be insane. Yeah. That's where I'm at though. So lines move for two reasons. Lines move because somebody one side gets a lot of money thrown that way, or the odds makers realize they made a mistake. This line moves so fast. I think the odds makers realized they made a mistake. I'm going to tell you what happened, Dave. I think they had the lines preset at 5.5 before this weekend slate of games, and they didn't think to change it. And then
just to get that money first, is that the theory? I mean, if you're going to lose the money as a bookmaker, why would you do that?
I think this is why lines move sometimes. Sometimes lines move because people realize they made a mistake. They can move for three reasons. One, they can move because a lot of money is bet on somebody. Two, they can move because new developments come. What would they have learned about Tennessee from Sunday to Monday? Nothing. Okay, there's nothing new they would have learned that we don't already know. And three, somebody realized they set the line too low and it was a total mistake and miscommunication, or something got lost in the shuffle. I think that's what happened here. I think somebody made a mistake. Either somebody accidentally came out with that line at 5.5. Bookmakers accidentally were setting that line at 5.5 because they had already preset it, or I think that's it. I think that's what happened. So
I'll say another thing that's going to happen, and it's going to give Tennessee's fan base a chance to make some money. Is get on these numbers earlier, especially this season, because I believe there are some odds makers that look at Tennessee and got burned last year because they heard about how talented Joe Milton was, and they thought the offense would hit another level, Caleb, and they got burned, just like the media did that I thought picked Tennessee too low at 15. And I believe that Tennessee moved the line, but my theory is Vegas says that Josh Heupel guy throws up a bunch of points on lesser teams, so not factoring that out. Maybe it was set before, gambling way better than me, but I just don't. I think this is a situation in which Tennessee jumped all over it, because Tennessee fans, and I've talked to people in Vegas about this, they not only moved the line, Texas, pardon me, Texas is another school that say something insightful.
Oh, fan bases that move the line. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
No,
you were saying that.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I got choked up. But the fan bases that move the line, Notre Dame, Texas, Tennessee is right up there. I'm telling you guys. I mean, and Caleb, I don't know if you know this, but Knoxville was once considered the East Coast gambling town other than Atlantic City. And there were poker rooms back in the 70s and 80s off every block that went till 5 a.m. Are you aware of that?
I was not aware of that. Must have been speakeasies.
Yeah, I know a guy that ran one. I mean, he was just the dealer and he took home the house money, but he ran a poker room and they were everywhere. So Knoxville, for whatever reason, is a monstrous gambling town. As a matter of fact, with this line, what do you think will happen over the next 2 days, if anything?
I think the line closes even higher, closes up at 9. Now, if we'll know, by the way, Dave, we'll know if this line was moved based on too many people scooping up Tennessee, -5.5, or it moved because they realized they made a mistake. If it moves back towards the 5.5, then your theory is right. It'll be a bunch of people bet on this when it was 5.5 and then it slowed. But if it keeps moving up, like Tennessee 8, Tennessee 9, then that means the odds makers are saying, wow, we really screwed this up. The other point is, I don't think it was just Tennessee fans that moved this line. I think national bettors all just watched NC State over the weekend and watched Tennessee, and national bettors like, what the heck? Who in the world would set this Tennessee minus 5.5?
I'm just throwing this out there for funsies because I love the YouTube poll question that we figured out a couple of months ago. I gamble, yes or no. What percentage of fans in general of college football gamble, do you think? Because right now it's about 50-50.
I would say 45% of college football fans gamble. Because half of them, I mean, not half, but a lot of them still live in states where gambling is not allowed.
All right, we'll have some picks later in the week.
And we're not going to pretend that, and we're not going to talk about what happened to me over the weekend.
0-5. He'll do better. He'll do better. See if he can climb out of the hole. For Caleb Calhoun, I'm Dave Hooker. I want to remind you the show represented by Banks and Jones with T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com. For Caleb, I'm Dave. Have a fantastic day, everyone. This